And what up, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of NFC Beast, the only show that exclusively covers the NFC East, even when all of the teams in the division continue to lose. Here to help me do that today, our superstar craft of journalists. In New York, we got Lou Albanese. In Dallas, Mike Ducey is in the building, and of course, Breland Moore of the Birds has joined the show as well. All right, so much to talk about today. Washington Commanders, 8 consecutive losses. We've got Dallas unable to seize the division themselves, but all conversations must start with the Philadelphia Eagles. Those Birds, Breland, lost you all's 3rd consecutive game coming up, and in that game, we had Jalen Hurts throwing the ball some 30-plus times, including 5 turnovers and 4 interceptions. So, Breland, we've been pressuring you, pressuring Philadelphia all season long to be more exciting on offense. Did the Eagles start listening, and has it sunk their season?
No, so they don't listen to outside criticism to the point where Jordan Mailata even said he's like, I hide my phone a lot. Like, delete the apps off your phone. Don't pay attention to the outside noise. So I don't necessarily think that they was listening to criticism. That being said, this run game, as we know, has been really anemic. They have not been able to get this thing going. I say that as Saquon Barkley finally broke 100 yards for the 2nd time this season during this game. But I think you have to try to experiment when your run game's not working with the passing game. I know everyone is pointing the fingers at Jalen Hurts right now, and 4 interceptions is a lot, but those were not completely his fault. Your receivers, I'm talking about Mr. 1K always open, I'm going to tweet about how I don't get the ball, has to catch the ball, and he has to execute and make those plays, okay? So it's not just on Jalen Hurts, it's not just on the play calling, it's also on the receivers and the rest of the offense to execute and make sure that they're not slowing down when they're running for the ball and whatnot. I mean, that was insane. But the thing that does give me a little bit of confidence, and I don't think the Eagles are sunk. First of all, their schedule is basically a cakewalk with the exception of that Buffalo game in Buffalo on December 28th. Beyond that, I think the fact that they looked so terrible and turned the ball over 5 times and still took that team to overtime. You know how bad that offense was and was operating, and they still took the Chargers into OT and almost won? I think they'll be okay.
I see what you did there with that schedule, Breland. It's because you all played the Commanders twice in the final 3 weeks. We'll address that later on, but I see what you did there. Mike, the reason why I bring this up, you've got A.J. Brown ever since he went on his tweet parade and his interviews in which he said all sorts of nice things about the offense. He has actually been the leading receiver in the NFL for the last 3 weeks, I believe, in all 3 games in which this Eagles team has lost. So is it because of these changes? They were winning ugly early. Now they're losing, putting the ball in the air.
I don't know why the changes were made, why the change in emphasis was made. As Breland said, I think they were looking for anything that would jumpstart this offense after the running game has struggled the way that it has. What's puzzled me about the Eagles' offense is that they haven't used the run-pass option more with Jalen Hurts, since that was such a strength of his, seemingly up until this year, and it seems like we don't see that nearly as much as we have in the past. Also, as Breland mentioned, it's tempting to want to blame Hurts when you just look at the stat sheet and there are 5 turnovers that he supposedly is responsible for, but it's more complicated than that. We all know that. We all know that every interception isn't on the quarterback. It's about a receiver not hanging onto a ball. It's about the way a route has been run, whatever the case may be. So maybe the Eagles have tweaked some things. I don't think it has anything to do with outside pressure or probably anything to do with pressure from any individual player on that roster either. It's just coaches trying to figure out a way to make the offense sizzle a little bit more, to make it more productive. And to Breland's point as well, I don't think the Eagles are sunk either. People who live here hope that they're sunk. They hope that the Eagles are grounded from here on out, because that's the only thing that gives the Cowboys a chance. But I don't think that's the case.
All right, Lou, here's your opportunity. It's open season on Nick Sirianni. You live for these moments.
I love the open season on Nick Sirianni because I hate Nick Sirianni. And guess what? Again, it shows that he is a slave to his assistants. You change your offensive coordinator, and they can't make the adjustments. You know what? we could talk Obi-Wan about the interceptions and the numbers and the receiver didn't run left or he didn't run right or someone didn't jump on their head. I got all that BS. What bothered me more than anything else, and I've watched that face for years with Daniel Jones, is Jalen Hurts had that sad, deer in the headlights, what is going on face. And that's when you have to start getting concerned. Here's a guy who was MVP of the Super Bowl. I'm one of his biggest backers. He should have taken that next step, and yet he did. But unfortunately, it was backwards. And I'd be more concerned about how lost he looked and how confused he looked than actually the numbers on the stat sheet. That's what they got to be concerned about.
Hey, Breland, Lou brings up a great point, and we kind of started the season talking about Jalen Hurts. Of course, that was coming off of the heels of everything that Cam Newton said, and just about everybody on this panel said that Jalen Hurts was that kind of dude and that he would prove it. Are we beginning to see cracks in Jalen Hurts?
I don't think so. There is a narrative. I feel like we love a good backup quarterback in this city. And so the bozos who call into sports radio are already calling for Tanner McKee.
What?
I think it's perfectly acceptable for, oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's been a trying time here in Philadelphia. They are out and about. But I think anyone who has a brain does not think that there's anything necessarily wrong with Jalen Hurts. Franchise quarterbacks all the time have bad games. I don't necessarily think this is a crack in the system here type thing.
All right, I'm going to take your bozos call into the sports talk, and I'm going to raise you up a little bit because here in the nation's capital, we're getting much of the same there. Only for us, it's pertaining to one Dan Quinn. This Washington Commanders team has lost 8 games in a row, and many in the fan base here in the Washington, D.C. area inexplicably to me, are questioning whether Dan Quinn has lost this team, lost this locker room, and if it's time to potentially move on from Dan Quinn. Mike, you know Quinn, DQ very well. What say you?
If Jerry Jones had a head coach take his team to the NFC Championship game, he'd give him a lifetime contract at this point. And Dan Quinn is one season removed from that. I think he's a good football coach. I think by and large he was a good coach in Atlanta where he got that team to a Super Bowl and they blew that huge lead and all that. He was a good coordinator here, I know. And again, if they really struggle next year, maybe even out of the gate, maybe even in the first half of the season, it's a different discussion, but to overreact in such a way that you might think that Quinn's job is on the line right now just because they regressed as badly as they did 1 year after going to the conference championship game, that seems like it's a bit much to me.
Lou, you all obviously got rid of a coach in the middle of the season. What say you?
Well, remember Brian Daboll took his team to the playoffs the very first year.
Woo!
Beat the Vikings, got crushed by the Eagles, and you saw a steady decline. Now, Dan Quinn has a track record that Brian Daboll does not. But obviously, you're not going to fire Dan Quinn after what happened last year. But this is what happens sometimes. This is the NFL, up and down, up and down. Not for long league is the reason they call it that, and not just for players, it's also for coaches.
And to Mike's point here, I mean, you look at this Washington Commanders team, it's not just the 8 losses. It's the fact that 5 of them have been by some 20-plus points in those 5 of those 8 losses. So not only has it not been good, but it has not looked good on the season as well. I think that many Washington Commanders fans were waiting for, well, once we get healthy, this thing will begin to look more similar to last year, and then you get basically the entire offense healthy. You go out there and get blanked and beat some 31-0. So I understand the frustration, but any thought that Dan Quinn, DQ, a man who was lauded and praised and for great reason led them to the NFC Championship game, any thought that he should be summarily dismissed after this year is asinine, asa 10, and asa 11, because Breland, he might just beat you all not once but twice coming up.
Okay, I think we need to take a deep
Simmer
breath
down.
here, Chad,
Simmer
on
down.
that.
Okay.
There,
Big
just
fan.
simmer down a little bit on that
Got
one.
it.
But
Got it.
no, I do agree with you, and it kind of reminds me of the narrative that surrounded Nick Sirianni in 2023. I know Lou is going to love this conversation, but there was a conversation there. You took this team to the Super Bowl, and now you have an epic collapse. Is he losing the locker room? And every single player looked us dead in the face and goes, Absolutely not. We love Nick, and these problems aren't Nick's fault. The changes were corrected, changes were made in the offseason, and then guess what happened? Super Bowl 59 champions. I don't think it's the head coach's fault that you guys have an aging roster down there. I don't think it's the head coach's fault that there's been so many injuries. There's a lot going on there, and it doesn't just fall on the shoulders of Dan Quinn. So definitely another year. I think it's crazy to talk about firing a coach or whatnot this soon.
All right, that's excellent. Me and Breland agreeing on something. I'm very glad to hear that, Bree. You keep cooking like that. On to Dallas now, where the team lost a costly game to the Detroit Lions. So, Mike, I'm coming to you now. 4 games remaining. You spoke about this. The Cowboys damn near need Philly to drop them out of their own way in order to get into the playoffs. So, are the Dallas playoffs hopes done?
They're not done, but they're incredibly slim. They're as slim as I wish I were right now. But I think it goes without saying that Dallas needs to win out. They need to win their last 4 games, and I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility given their schedule. Got the Vikings, they do have the Chargers, and then they have Washington and the Giants. But I don't think the Eagles will stumble badly enough that it would allow Dallas to overcome them and win the division. But it was really a disappointing performance from a Cowboys standpoint in Detroit on that Thursday night. The offense, which had looked so good for so long, took a while to get going. And the defense, which had looked vastly improved over that 3-game winning streak, regressed back to what we had seen for most of the season. A defense, a lot of people thought, okay, these trades, this thing's getting better. Maybe they figured some things out. They had very little figured out against Jared Goff and company and the Lions on that Thursday night. So obviously costly there. They're a 500 football team right now. That's about what I thought they would be when the season started. Maybe they end up a little better than that, but I don't think it'll be enough for them to get the division. Are they totally done? Obviously, statistically, technically they're not, but in reality they probably are.
Speaking of looking slim, Lou Albanies, who once again just looks absolutely fantastic. Everybody, run back and watch this show from a year ago and see who Lou Albanies is today. Dallas Cowboys, are they looking as fresh as you, Lou?
2 people last year. Listen, Dallas, I don't know about fresh as me, but hey, I think they're still in it only because a game and a half is not a big deal. It wouldn't be crazy if a tie proves to be the difference. But you're right. The problem is the schedule. The Eagles should win at least 2, if not 3, of those next 4. But if the Eagles stumble once, I still think Dallas can bounce back. Detroit's a good team. They ran all over them. Detroit runs off of everybody. Dallas is not done. It's a slim chance, but they still have a shot.
And, of course, the issue is for the Cowboys is that you basically have to win the East, and that is because of Green Bay, Chicago out there. They continue to trudge forward. So, Breland, can the Cowboys get it done? It's a question that you've been waiting to answer.
Well, Mike, I love when you do shows with us, but I was really hoping for Jeff Kolb today, who sat here and told me that the Cowboys were the team to beat, and we better look out, and we're going to do some tie-breaking math and this and that. And I said, you really think you're going to beat Detroit? And he looked me in the face and said yes. So there's that. So I'd just like to bring that moment back from last week. Anyway, yeah, it's a long shot, never say never. And this Eagles team is so weird right now that I can't sit here and tell you guys that they're completely out of it. But if the Eagles do what they should do, it's their division, and I think Dallas is very, very slim. I think I looked it up today, and it was like 11% chance of a playoff spot. It's not impossible, so you're saying there's a chance, but it's not likely.
Yeah. Dallas with a huge game versus Minnesota, a Vikings team who looks to turn the corner in their own regard. If they can get beyond that, we'll see. We'll talk about that a little later on. All right, Lou, your New York Giants, of course, had a bye this past weekend, meaning that they're the only team in the division that did not take a step back, as surprisingly as that may be. We know that they're going to be looking for a new head coach this offseason. You have floated the idea of trading the number 1 through 3 pick for that head coach out there in Pittsburgh. Should Joe Shane...
No, now would be the top pick.
Okay.
Well, now it's a top pick, so we can't call the top pick anymore. We're not going to do the top pick, so now I'm off the hook. I would trade number 3, but not number 1, so we'll go off the hook there. But yes, I still think look, what hurt me last week was the lousy Steelers and Aaron Rodgers finding his youth and winning that game against the Ravens. I didn't need that. That definitely hurt my chances. But I still think the Giants should go after Mike Tomlin. But after last week's game, why not go after John Harbaugh? One way or the other, I want to see a grown-up. I want to see someone over the age of 12 coaching this Giants team. Someone who has a football IQ. Someone who knows something about this is a football, guys. And that is the end zone, guys. And you go that way. Not that way. You go that way towards the end zone. Can we have that? Because we haven't had that since Tom Coughlin.
Breland, under Joe Schoen's tutelage, Joe Schoen, of course, the general manager for the New York Giants, this team is 20-43-1 as of today. He is going to be the one leading this head coaching search. Should this be Joe Schoen's operation moving forward?
I mean, yeah, he should have the final say. That's his literal job. And if he, if he can't be trusted with that, then they need to fire him. Like, I don't understand, like, who else would be making that decision? And if they don't have confidence in Joe Schoen to make that, then that needs an evaluation in and of itself. But if you're going to keep somebody in charge, you can't have him be kind of like a lame duck GM. He's got to be able to do his job. So, I mean, yeah, logically it should be his position to hire.
I happen to agree with you there. I mean, there are some pointing to some of the misses that Joe Schoen has had beyond Brian Daboll, the Evan Neals of the world, etc. But you got also guys like Malik Neighbors and, of course, Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbull, etc. I don't believe that Joe Schoen has done a horrible job. I think that it should be in his hands as well. Mike, we know that down there in Dallas, these decisions come from up top. What do you say?
Yeah, I think that's the solution. Just make the owner the general manager. It solves everything, right? We've seen that for the last 30 years around here.
Wrong?
Yeah, I guess if Shane has the title, he should be the one making the decision. I don't know who else he's getting his advice from. That tends to make a difference, obviously. But either he has that position, he has that job and the ability to do the job the way he wants to, or he doesn't. You go look for somebody else. So if he's the man, theoretically, with the title, he should make the call.
Very quickly, Lou, you have the last word on this. Should Shane even still be in that position after the season ends?
No, he shouldn't be in the position. The only reason I believe he's in the position is, unfortunately, John Mara has health problems. And how it works up here is maybe Shane is running the operation, looking for a coach. But in the end, John Mara is going to have the final say on this. He's going to give the thumbs up or thumbs down on whoever he chooses. And in the end, I think the thumbs down is going to be a 2-foot. We're going to pick a coach, and then we're going to get rid of Joe.
Woo, boy. Lou Albany's dropping that fire. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, coming up, we are going to discuss the state of the NFC East. Do we like it, love it, or absolutely hate it? That's next on The Beast. Welcome back to NFC Beast. And guys, I have a confession to make. It was back at the beginning of the season in which I went on record in saying that I believe that this season, the NFC East would be one of the hardest divisions in all of football, arguably the best division in all of football, and that has turned out to be nothing but wrong and a falsehood, and for that I'm embarrassed. Two teams far below 500, one at 500, and one that is falling faster than an eagle in the state of Pennsylvania. So that brings us to our question here. Breland, we'll start with you. Is the NFC East the most disappointing conference in all of football? Division, I should say.
Well, yes and no. So you still have the AFC North and the NFC South, but I feel like those are kind of, especially the NFC South, that's a historically, at least recent history rather, a weak conference, right? So if you want to say in terms of expectations, absolutely. I think everyone thought at least 3 of these teams would be in playoff contention. And you're not the only one, Chad, who thought that Hard Knocks is here, right? In all of this division, because they want to be here for this. And now it's not even really exciting. I kind of feel a little bit bad for HBO. Not too bad, but so I think when you look at where the expectation was, yes, it is the most disappointing. But in terms of watching and the product that they put out, I think the NFC South is that they're just are terrible.
And Mike, I think that it is the expectation. I mean, you look at Eagles and Commanders, and then with your Dallas Cowboys, whether you all win or lose, it's always a show. And to Breland's point, that is why Hard Knocks is here with these teams playing each other, some 4 games in a row coming down the stretch here. So how disappointing is the East this year?
I would say that the AFC North might be a tad more disappointing just because you've got 3 most likely future Hall of Fame quarterbacks in that division, and Rodgers coming in to try to rescue Pittsburgh, and Lamar with Baltimore, and Joe Burrow with Cincinnati. And if you can get above 500, you're probably going to win that division. In the NFC East, disappointing in what has happened to Washington, no doubt about it. To go from the conference title game to where the Commanders have gone is tremendously disappointing for them. The story isn't written on the Eagles yet. They're stumbling now. I still think they're probably going to be fine down the stretch. And the Cowboys, maybe from the outside, people were looking at it with high expectations. I think most people who follow the team closely expected this kind of season, frankly, a 500 type season. So I don't know that it's much more disappointing than we assumed it would be, or that the performances have been that much worse than when we thought they would be. So I'd say AFC North a little more disappointing than the NFC East.
Lou, I think that our respective fan bases are the ones that are truly feeling the brunt of this. I mean, for the Commanders, their fall has been documented by just about everybody. And then the Giants, though, there were many, including myself, I will say that. I believe that this was a team that would compete throughout the season, potentially win some 7 or so games. It is these 2 teams, 7 and 8 game losing streaks respectively, that have truly let down the NFC East.
Oh, no doubt about it. The 2 bottom feeders are just that, bottom feeders. Of 3 of the 4 cities, you got New York, Philly, and Washington. So you go down I-95 for people who know, and you get a certain point in New Jersey, and the stench is so bad it drives people off the road. That's what I feel like sometimes watching the NFC East, is that I'm right by that part where the oil refineries and are on Jersey, and you're smelling that stench. Sometimes watching these teams, that's what it's like. And the disappointing part of it is, yes, the NFC North, NFC South is weak, but it's always weak. There's nobody cared about them anyhow. And the AFC North, you got injuries like you had Lamar out, you had Burrow out. So, yes, I think the NFC East is more disappointing because people thought more about even the Giants would be better than this.
Yeah, and I happen to agree with you. NFC East, we expected so much more, but yet the fan bases still love you the same. Coming up, we're going to pick our games for this week. These experts will let you know who's going to win and why. It's the Beast. We've now reached that portion of the NFC Beast in which we let you know exactly who is going to win the games this weekend. We'll begin with the Philadelphia Eagles, where they have lost 3 consecutive games, Breland, but they got just what the doctor ordered, a matchup with the Raiders.
Yeah, if Philadelphia doesn't beat a team that their head coach came out and said we are playing for pride, then we really have to have a conversation about this team. But I'm going to go the Eagles.
All right, Breland not surprisingly goes with the Birds. Lou.
Okay, if you can't beat the Raiders, then we might as well just stop right now and not even play the last 3 games. I mean, Pete Carroll's kicking field goals down 45 points. What is going on here? So whatever it is, yes, they have to win this week.
All right, I'm going to shock the world, go out on a limb and Nah, I'm going with the Eagles as well. Not doing that. Not on this show. Mike, who you got?
Yeah, I've got the Eagles too. I think the Philly comeback tour begins in a convincing fashion. Give me the Eagles big in this one.
It says truly a game. And Breland, how important is it that the Eagles not only win, but get right against a lesser opponent?
Yeah, I think this can do a lot for their morale, especially on that offensive side of the ball. And honestly, on the defensive side of the ball as well, they're kind of being hung out to dry, guys, with time of possession being so lopsided. And you can just tell that they're gassed because they're playing at such a high level. So I think it'll be great for everybody involved, yeah.
All right, Deucey, Dallas needs a victory. They're playing a Vikings team that showed a lot of life last week against the Washington Commanders. Who wins this game and why?
Yeah, this looks like a tougher game than it did 10 days ago, doesn't it? I will take Dallas in this game. I think the Cowboy offense won't wait as long to get going at home on a Sunday night. A Dallas defense, which is ranked near the bottom in terms of forcing turnovers, I think figures out a way to force a couple against J.J. McCarthy. Give me the Cowboys.
All right, Breland, you've already sent the shot in Jeff Kolb's way. You got one for Mike as well. Who wins this game?
Realistically, I'm sure that Dallas is going to win. But you know what? That would be the funniest thing ever if Minnesota would win. So give me the Vikings.
I actually am rolling with you here. I think that the Vikings, I think that J.J. McCarthy figured some stuff out. It's easy to say that was against a Washington defense, but I think that they figured some things out. I think they run the ball, they keep the ball away from Dak Prescott, and Minnesota walks away with a victory on Sunday. Lou, what do you say?
Well, first of all, wins against the Giants or Washington shouldn't count this late in the season, so I'm not excited about what Minnesota's doing. I still think the Cowboys will bounce back. I still think Quinnen Williams and the defense will play better, and I think they get the big win, and then we see what happens. Both the Eagles and the Cowboys win, and we move on to the next week.
Yeah, well, I think that for the ratings of this show, we all hope that Dallas wins so that we have things to continue to talk about here. And speaking of that, one team with a 7-game losing streak, the other with an 8-game losing streak. It is the Washington Commanders headed to New York to take on the Giants. Lou, this game undoubtedly will be sold out. Everybody's looking forward to it.
Well, you know what? It's going to look sold out because all the seats will be empty, so it's all going to look the same. So you won't even know whether it's in it or not. My favorite shot is when they start the game and they pan the stadium, and you're wondering, what, they shoot that at 9 o'clock in the morning? What's going on? There's nobody here. I'm going to go with, it kills me to have to go with the Giants one more time because I said after the last time I picked them and they lost, I'm done. Until LT walks through the door, I'm not picking them again, but I'm going to go with the Giants. Jackson Dart, we'll figure it out somehow.
I'm going to tell you what, I believe that the Washington Commanders are going to win this game. Jaden Daniels, of course, out of this game. Marcus Mariota will be getting the start. He has played so much more than Jaden this week. I believe that the offense shows up against a weakened New York Giants defense. Go Commanders. Mike, what do you say?
Do I have to? Really? No, give me... I guess I'll take the Giants. In fact, I have a score. It's coming to me. 3-2, the final. Giants get the win.
And awesome. Because of that, Breland, we don't even have time for you. It's NFC Beast. I ran out of time there.